Years ago, Dragon kits hit the market with a bang, but over the years have gained notoriety for their plethora of redundant parts coupled with confusing instructions. But are they as bad as some might suggest, or has Dragon just been unfairly labelled? It's been an age since I've built a Dragon kit, so I chose to tackle the M4-105 with a unique field-applied camouflage scheme and remind myself what the Dragon experience was like. The instructions give you two options for the Bogie assemblies. Of course, the option I built initially was incorrect, as I discovered the 105s required the angled arm for those return rollers rather than the straight ones. My first of many run-ins with this instruction sheet. But thankfully it wasn't too late and I could address the bogies and change them to the correct style for this subject. So why give you the option of the incorrect assembly, I hear you ask? Well, that's a question for someone much smarter than me.
Why?
The kit supplied track skids were also chunky and overscale, so a set of 3D printed substitutes was added as a quick and easy upgrade. The hull elements were then attached, with the fitting of that front plate clunky at best, and that would require some significant filling using a thinned Tamiya putty down the track. Photo etch parts undoubtedly strike fear in some modelers, but there is no doubt that that fine degree of detail elevates the look of a model greatly. The etch is removed using a sharp blade on a hard surface, and any burrs left from those connection points can be carefully sanded using a sanding stick. Etch parts must be attached to the plastic using a super glue to ensure the strongest bond. Another quick and easy upgrade to this Sherman is adding a brass barrel for that bow machine gun. This Master branded piece is stunning and adds a level of refinement the molded barrel just can't compete with. The kit comes with styrene as well as an etch option for the brush guards for the lights. However, I picked up a set of 3D printed T-Rex substitutes as they presented a level of detail that was superior than the kit could provide. And that meant that the locating divots needed to be filled prior to installing them. I used this opportunity to add some texturing to the glacis plate and side armour using a Tamiya putty thinned with a Mr. Cement S and stippling it on using an old brush. A light sand, once dry, helps give that impression of a rolled steel texture and will add another layer of texturing to this model. I felt the cast texture on the turret looked pretty good straight from the box, so chose to overlook modifying those parts, but used the cement to better blend that connection point between the two halves of that assembly. I fitted the lights earlier and placed a small amount of liquid mask over the lenses. I did the same thing with the periscopes, but used masking tape for that masking application. Aluminium was then applied over those parts, and this will represent the silver in the lenses and the mirrors in the periscopes. It'll all make sense at the end of this build, but needed to be addressed at this stage. Back to those 3D printed brush guards now, and they were incredibly fragile, but were worth the effort for that level of refinement they bring. I also took the opportunity to upgrade the siren with a freebie I found on Colts 3D, as the kit supplied part was horrendous. Another easy upgrade is to drill out the drainage holes found around the splash guards on the hull using a micro drill. Just follow reference photos and you will see these holes clearly for yourselves. I'd considered painting and pre-weathering the wheels and hull assemblies like I'd done in a few model builds you may have seen before, but had a change of heart, so you'll notice they've been primed in that dark grey colour. The fit of the two halves of the hull was questionable, however, and needed a degree of force to have it sit flush. I used super glue for this connection because of its fast drying time and its strong bond. I could then bend the etch mudguards. This etch bending tool is so helpful with this type of application, and I'd consider it a must-have in your modelling goodie bag. I've attached a link for one through Hobbyist Haven and a small discount there, but you can get these tools from just about any good hobby shop. The straps for the tools also come as an etch replacement, so the moulded elements on those tool pieces must first be removed using a sharp blade. Gluing the tools in place is a time-consuming task. However, the detail the etch straps added was a really nice touch and should present beautifully once painted, and it's well worth the effort. The etch trim was then attached to the sides, with the instructions giving very little indication as to how that should sit. However, after studying reference, it should be hanging half over the edge of that armour plate rather than sitting flush with it. I could then attach the bogies and idler. A quick check to ensure the model was sitting flush with the ground, and all seemed to be going to plan. The kit comes with vinyl tracks that looked pretty reasonable to me. This style of vinyl track can actually handle a modelling cement, and the bond was surprisingly strong. As you can see though, these tracks included the duckbill extension details off the edges, and this is a detail that is present on the box art as well, but of course absent on the reference image I was trying to follow. This is quite an oversight here from Dragon again, because neither of the marking options in this kit saw that style of track. So I ordered a set of T-Rex tracks online, but couldn't help myself but test fit the ones I'd just made. Moving back to the turret, and the kit comes with an early and a late option for the cupola, but again no indication as to which one might be appropriate for the subject at hand. After looking at references, one of them being the box art, I concluded the late version was appropriate. However, the wind was soon taken out of my sails when I looked closer at that historical image of this tank. It clearly has the early style of cupola hatch. Yes, I know I should have checked that historical image first, but luckily I was able to remove the new style and fit the old. As I upgraded that machine gun barrel, so too I upgraded the 105mm barrel using a def model part. The rifling on the inside of the barrel was provided as etch, and after some plastic surgery and coercion, the barrel was squeezed in place through the moulded gun mantlet. A grab handle for the commander's hatch was replaced using a fine length of wire bent using an RB Tools bending jig. Modifying things like grab handles is a cheap and easy way to take your models to the next level. Periscopes are fitted, and I tried to use the T-Rex 3D prints for these guards, but they were incredibly fragile and more or less disintegrated trying to remove them, so the kit parts would have to do for these assemblies. Adding stowage to your models adds that human element to the subject and an extra layer of interest to the piece. I picked up a set of value gear stowage designed to fit the engine deck of a Sherman. A small amount of modification was required. However, the best way to integrate these pre-made resin stowage sets is to first lay a bed for them, and that is done using a two-part sculpting putty. I'm using a green stuff product and rolling it out using a talcum powder to ensure it doesn't stick to the plate. Once the putty is reasonably thin, I trim it to an appropriate size and look to lay the tarp in place. A brush moistened with water helps that putty flow through the shapes and recesses. And I'm trying to think about how a piece of weighted fabric may fall and lay in real life, and introduce that when I'm laying this base. The resin stowage can then be seated into that putty, giving it a sense of volume and weight. An additional putty tarp is draped over the top of that stowage, and a string from a tea bag is used to create the rope to hold it in place. The beauty of adding that putty over the top is the string can be pressed into it to simulate the tension in the rope, and that also integrates the soft stowage with the hard resin pieces. Some additional texturing was applied along the side armour plate to blend some imperfections I'd found, and with that the model was ready for priming and paint. There is no getting around the fact that these Dragon instructions are less than perfect, but I'm probably telling you all something you already know. Unclear placements and positions are one thing though, but the thing that frustrated me the most were the options you were given through the build with no indication as to what would be appropriate for the model you were trying to build. I guess that's why a manufacturer like Tamiya or Edouard does so well. It's because they take a lot of the guesswork out of the build, or at worst take options you may have during the build and clearly indicate which option should go with which scheme. But with Dragon, you really need to keep your wits about you and constantly check reference if those details were important to you. Dragon looks to be re-releasing a whole lot of these old kits with enhanced upgrades and bonus additions such as figure sets, but with the average price, at least for me, around 100 Australian dollars per kit, it makes you hope that they've addressed some of these shortcomings with these instructions. But let me know what you guys think. What's your experience with the Dragon kit been like? Did the instructions catch you out? Have they upgraded the instructions in these new releases? I'd love to know, so let me know in the comments down below. If I've added some value today, please remember to hit the like button and be sure to subscribe, as it helps me grow this channel and connect with a greater audience. And be sure to connect with me over on the Patreon page, where you'll get access to ad-free videos, additional content, and a chance to connect in a greater way. Patreon is free, and once you are there, you can choose the tier that suits you best. And you guys know the drill. This is the greatest hobby in the world. Share it with your family and share it with your friends. And let's be proud of what we do. Until next time, I'll see you soon.
Yeah, okay, Sherman, whatever.